here for a little Monte Monday action. We left off last week with starting to sandblast the trunk lid, and the very next day the temperature dropped. It was 4 or 5 degrees at night, high of like 15 during the day, and that went on for a few days. And now it's been nice and warm, but it has been raining non-stop. And I don't know if I've explained this before in the Monte Carlo videos, but if I don't clean up all the sand inside this little booth, it acts like a sponge at the edge of the door, and it just soaks all the water in. And I didn't clean it up, and I came out the next day and it was just pouring rain, and I went in there and all the sand is wet. And I've been scooping the sand up and straining it and reusing it. With it all being wet, it's not usable. I can't reuse it. Now I do have other sand here, but I cleaned it all up, and it's still just the cement is soaking wet in there. Everything's wet. And if I go in there with fresh sand and start sandblasting, all my fresh sand is just going to land on that wet cement and get all wet. So I'm not complaining. I'm just letting you guys know why I haven't gotten the trunk lid sandblasted yet. We had 3 days of an Arctic blast, and then we've had 3 days of rain. So I got this cleaned up again. I had to clean up the roof again. I stripped this roof, probably a year ago, and it still needed to be cleaned up when we worked on it a few weeks ago, but it wasn't that bad. It was still pretty clean. We got this thing all cleaned up, sandblasted, DA'd down 3 weeks ago. I put the car cover back on it. The car cover's been on it since because we've been working on the trunk lid. I pulled the car cover off today, and the entire roof was a thin layer of rust across the entire roof. So I had to go back just a little bit ago. I just finished doing it. And I had to re-strip the roof with the burnishing tool and re-DA everything out, and wire wheel and hit spots with the grinder. And so I had to go through and just strip and clean the whole roof again. We did go last Monday. We went to our paint supply store in the Chicagoland area, and we picked up some supplies from there. So I figured, since I couldn't work on the trunk lid today, I've had the fan going in there all day. It looks to me like it's wetter than it was before I put the fan in there. But I forget where I was going with that. Anyways, I got a bunch. We're gonna get some filler put on here, and that'll stop it from rusting, and we can continue to work on this until it's ready to prime. I'd like to get the top primed, the windshield pillars primed, and then the B pillar and the C pillar, get those primed on both sides. Now, I don't think that we're going to get that done tonight, but if we can get it coated today, at least the top, then I'll be happy with that. It'll stop it from rusting over the next week or two that we work on it, and hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks or something, maybe we can get this guy primed up. So it kind of sucks just working on it 1 day a week, and I get up, I do all my morning chores. I usually come out here, I clean up the shop, I get stuff ready to work, Then by that time it's lunchtime. And you know, I usually do, you know, my lunchtime chores, and then by the time I get out here it's usually the evening again. So you know, usually I only work on this thing, even though it's Monte Monday. You know, I'm not out here 8 hours working on this thing. You know, I'm out here 2 hours sometimes, 3 hours, 4 hours. You know, sometimes I get a couple hours in the morning, and I get a few hours in at night. But you know, it goes slow when you only work on a half a day every week. So, but we'll keep working on it, and we'll get it done, and keep moving forward. So I have this little like, we are scraping the bottom of the bucket here on this one. So I'm going to use this one up, and I got some new stuff that we'll probably end up opening up. Okay, so emptied that up. You can see I'm just going to mix it right here on the roof. You know, I have a board that's big enough to mix this stuff up on, but why mix it up on a board to just dump it here on the roof? Might as well just mix it right here on the roof. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, we'll be back with the fresh gallon to keep going. We used up that gallon. Would have came out a little smoother and a little nicer had we just used a new gallon on it, but I needed to use that stuff up, so we'll be back. Alright, we're back. I opened up a new can, put some on the roof. Oh, much smoother and nicer being out of a brand new gallon. Okay, we'll be back and we'll mix up the other side. I gotta go wipe my thing off. I wipe it and clean it in between each coat. That side, we should be able to get that coated in just one sitting, and then the whole roof will be coated and it'll be ready for air filing at that point once it dries. Okay, so like I said, once it's dry, we'll use the air file with some 80 grit on here, and we'll start air filing this all down. You may be looking at it and say, you're crazy. Who puts that much filler on a car? I've said it in other videos. You end up sanding 75% of it off, you know. I do this to all my vehicles, and you know, if you go back to the very beginning of the videos, where it says half dozen customs, there's a vehicle that we are taking the picture of the side of the vehicle, and it's showing all the trees and the leaves and everything. We took it during fall time right out here in my front yard, and it is a mirror image. I mean, that car came out beautiful, and that's how I got it that straight. I mean, every square inch of that car got a coat on it, and then it got air filed down, hand sanded, hand filed, you know, all down, and then I usually do two rounds of primer. I prime it, I block everything out, I prime it again, then it gets wet sanded down for paint. But this is how I do it. So this may not be the only coat. This may get air filed down, and we may pull another tight coat just like this over the top of it. I would love to be able to get it in this stage, air file it down, and then use glazing or icing putty over the top of it. But that stuff's super expensive, and it's just not my budget. I can't afford to do it. So sometimes I recoat the top of it, and that is like my glazing coat. But being the new can compared to the old can, like, you can see how much nicer and smoother this section came out than that section, because that was the bottom of a can I was scraping. So you know, it was thicker. You know, there was a couple of chunks here and there, but at the end of the day, it's still going to stand out the same, and it'll look the same. And we'll have to see once we get this filed out if it's going to need more. You know, if we got some low spots, then you know we're gonna have to coat it again. Sometimes when we get some low spots, if it's a decent low spot, what I'll do next, when we sand this down, if I have a decent low spot, I'll go through and I'll coat that low spot, and then we'll get that sanded out, and then we'll coat over the whole top of everything again, one more time. So it takes a lot, but like I said, I take a good portion of it off. But this being a black car, like, it has to be straight. It has to be perfect. This roof was far from perfect. You've seen numerous dents that we've already coated and fixed, or got a coat on, a courtesy coat, I call them. But there was still a lot, you know. I mean, this car is old. It's a 1981. It sat in a garage for a long time with stuff piled on top of it. I mean, you know, this roof was rough, far from straight. So we're gonna get it all straightened out. It's gonna look good, and you guys get to see the process of it. So I'm gonna call this right now at this point. I'll explain why. So if it was summer out and it was excuse if it was summer out and it was 90 degrees out, we could let this sit for an hour. We could come back. We could air file it down. Right now, I think it's 55 in here. I don't have any heat going or anything like that, so I think it's 55 in here. I'm gonna kick on the heat right now and let it warm up in here, and we'll check it in a couple of hours. Let's see, what time is it even? Yeah, see, we won't get to this today. It's going on 9 o'clock already. Sometimes when you're doing filler work, you know, there's a happy point that you can catch, and you can sand down that filler work where it's dry but not quite dry yet. It clogs up your paper, but it cuts real fast. Now, if I'm fixing a dent in a fender, and I'm trying to, you know, get body work done and get it primed in one day so that we can paint it the next day, and then the following day get it wet sanded and buffed out the door. Like, if I'm doing work like that, like, I'll cut it while it's still in its softer stage, and it just helps speed up the process. But if you've ever done anything like that, like, it's really hard to get the edges to feather out when you're cutting it when it's still soft. Now, being an entire roof like this, I don't want that in this roof. When I air file this down, I want it to feather out and blend out. If we start going through to metal here and there, and we will, you'll see, we'll hit metal all over the place on this thing. I want it to feather out and smooth out like it should. And if I cut it too soon, it won't do that, and you'll end up with like a hard edge ring around where it went from filler to metal. And if you were to just prime over that and sand it down, it'll be gone. But once you get it out into the sun and it's getting baked and everything's curing and drying and everything like that, you're gonna see that ring. So I want this completely 100% cured before we sand it. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know that, you know, it wasn't a super exciting video. I spread some filler on here, but you guys got to see how I do a whole roof. We get the whole thing coated in one shot. Yes, it got done in sections, but it all got coated in one shot. It'll get sanded in one shot. And then, like I said, the next go around, you know, like I said, it'll probably get coated again. Yeah. I'll see you guys in the next one. Remember to like, subscribe, share, leave a comment. I'm done talking. I'm out. Have a good night, guys.